Welcome back to Building Modular Dreams. I'm Andrew Copley from AJC Modular, and this is episode 6 of Season 2. Today we're taking a look at a topic that sits at the intersection of community, innovation, and compassion: affordable housing and community projects. We've talked about how modular homes can help first-time buyers, investors, retirees, and multi-generational families. In this episode, we're expanding the lens to see how modular construction is being used to address the broader housing crisis, providing safe, dignified homes for people who might otherwise be left behind. From social housing developments to charity builds and Indigenous community projects, modular construction is changing the way we think about affordability and impact.
And I'm here too. Thanks for the intro, mate. As always, none of what we talk about today is personal, financial, or legal advice. We'll share stories, facts, and ideas, but every project and community is different. Also, we'll sprinkle in a few ums and ahs because that's how we speak when we're talking about something we care deeply about. This isn't a polished advert, it's a real chat between people who want to make a difference.
Well said. I also want to set the scene. Housing affordability is one of the biggest challenges facing Australians today. A report from the Australian Bureau of Statistics shows that over the past 2 decades, median house prices have far outpaced income growth. In regional areas, rental vacancy rates are at record lows. Homelessness services are stretched thin. And in the midst of all that, we've got a federal target to build 1.2 million new homes by the end of 2029. That's ambitious, but necessary. If we continue to build homes at the current pace, using traditional methods, we're not going to hit that target. That's why alternative methods like modular construction are so important. They offer speed, predictability, and quality, which are essential if we're going to address this crisis. Let's start by unpacking what we mean by affordable housing. Affordable housing isn't just about low rent. It's about housing that's accessible to people on low to moderate incomes while leaving them enough money to live a decent life. In Australia, the benchmark often used is that a household should spend no more than 30% of its income on housing. But many low-income households are spending 40, 50, even 60% of their income on rent, which leads to housing stress. This means they're cutting back on essentials like food, healthcare, and education just to keep a roof over their heads. The private rental market doesn't always cater to them, and social housing waiting lists can be years long. So we need more supply, fast.
And that's where modular can play a role. Traditional builds on site require lots of trades, lots of materials, and lots of time. When you're trying to build hundreds or thousands of units quickly, those factors become bottlenecks. Modular construction takes place in a factory, which is less affected by weather and labor shortages. Modules can be produced in parallel rather than sequentially. This means you can deliver homes in months instead of years. Also, because there's less waste, the cost per unit can be lower. That's not to say modular is always cheaper. Design, transport, and site conditions play a big part. But when you're building at scale, the efficiencies add up.
There's also a sustainability angle. Modern modular homes can be built to high environmental standards. Things like double-glazed windows, high-performance insulation, solar panels, and water-efficient fixtures aren't just nice extras. They can be standard features. Low-income households are often stuck in older, inefficient homes that are expensive to heat and cool. If you replace those with well-insulated modular units, you reduce energy bills and improve health outcomes. It's a holistic approach.
Let's not forget that modular homes aren't just for individuals. They can be stacked, linked, and configured into larger complexes. Think of them like building blocks. You can assemble 10, 20, 50, or more modules into a cohesive community. This is crucial for affordable housing developments. You might have a mix of studios, 1-bedrooms, and 2-bedrooms, plus shared facilities like community rooms, gardens, and laundry areas. You can even incorporate commercial spaces on the ground floor, like a corner shop or a childcare centre, to serve residents. We'll talk later about a project in Melbourne that did just that.
And modular is adaptable. If the community's needs change, modules can be reconfigured, added, or removed. For example, if a temporary housing project is no longer needed in one location, the modules can be relocated to another site. This is especially useful for humanitarian or disaster recovery efforts. We're seeing modular units deployed as emergency housing after bushfires or floods. They can be installed quickly and then moved or repurposed later. The ability to redeploy assets is a game changer for governments and charities operating under tight budgets. Let's bring this to life with some case studies. One of my favourites comes from a partnership between a local council in Victoria and a not-for-profit housing provider. They needed to build affordable housing for women over 55 who were at risk of homelessness. This group is one of the fastest growing demographics experiencing homelessness in Australia, often due to a combination of low superannuation, divorce or widowhood, and rising rents. Traditional building projects were taking too long and costing too much, so they turned to modular.
They engaged a modular manufacturer who specialized in multi-unit developments. The project delivered 24 units across a single site. Each unit was a one-bedroom with a generous living area, a kitchenette, and a balcony. They were built to a 7-star energy rating and came with solar panels and double glazing. The entire development was completed in 9 months from planning approval to move-in, a fraction of the time a conventional build would have taken. The residents pay rent based on their income, and the project received funding from the state government and philanthropic donors.
Another example is a village of modular homes, built by a charity in partnership with the New South Wales government to house people experiencing chronic homelessness. The project consists of 40 tiny homes, arranged around communal gardens and a community centre. Each home is around 30 square metres, compact but fully self-contained. Residents also receive wraparound services, including mental health support, job training, and addiction counselling. What's remarkable is that the community was built in 6 months and cost about 30% less than an equivalent brick-and-mortar project. Early results show a significant reduction in emergency service calls and hospital visits from residents who were previously sleeping rough. It's not just about giving someone a bed, it's about providing stability so they can rebuild their lives.
There's also an Indigenous housing project in Western Australia where modular homes were used to replace substandard housing in a remote community. Traditional construction in remote areas can be extremely costly because of transport and labour. Modular allowed the government to build quality homes off-site and then transport them to the community. The homes were designed in consultation with Indigenous elders. They included features like covered outdoor areas for cooking, large verandas for social gatherings, and separate sleeping quarters for men and women. The project not only improved living conditions, but also provided training and employment for local community members who were involved in installing the homes on site.
Then there's the story of a group of friends in regional Queensland who couldn't afford to buy homes individually. They pooled their resources to buy a block of land and then built a cluster of modular homes arranged around a shared garden and workshop space. Each person had their own compact home, and they shared certain facilities. They created their own little community, reducing costs and building equity together. It's like a modern modular version of a share house, but each person has their own front door and private space. This is an example of how community projects aren't just for governments or charities. They can be driven by everyday people looking for alternative ways to live.
You've also got programs like Habitat for Humanity using modular homes in parts of the United States and Canada to provide affordable housing. Volunteers help with site preparation and some finishing touches, and the modules are craned in once ready. Home buyers contribute sweat equity and pay an affordable mortgage. The modular process makes it possible to build more houses in less time, which means more families get into secure housing. While that specific program isn't operating in Australia at the same scale, it's a model worth watching.
If you're designing an affordable housing project using modular units, there are unique considerations beyond what we've discussed for single homes. Let's start with scalability. To achieve economies of scale, You might standardize certain modules, like studios and one-bedrooms, but you still need to offer variety. People have different needs: families, singles, people with disabilities, so you need a mix. An efficient design will allow different modules to connect seamlessly. You might design the plumbing and electrical systems in a way that aligns across units to reduce complexity, and you might create common service corridors for maintenance.
Shared spaces are crucial. Affordable housing isn't just about roofs, it's about community. People who have been through trauma or instability benefit from communal areas where they can connect. A central garden, a barbecue area, a community room, these spaces encourage interaction and help combat isolation. In the modular context, you can integrate these spaces into the layout. For example, you might have modules open onto a courtyard rather than a car park. You might create covered walkways so people can move around easily in bad weather. You might include a laundry with multiple machines rather than building laundries into each unit, saving space and cost.
Accessibility is another critical factor. A portion of units in an affordable housing project should be designed to be fully accessible for people with mobility issues. That means wider doorways, larger bathrooms with appropriate turning circles for wheelchairs, lower bench tops, and visual and audible alarms for people with sensory impairments. Designing accessible units from the outset is cheaper and more effective than retrofitting later. Also, consider the external environment: smooth pathways, ramps, tactile markers, and appropriate lighting. A modular project can incorporate these features just as well as a traditional build.
Durability and maintenance are key. Housing providers don't want to be constantly repairing damage or replacing fittings. So choose robust materials, hard-wearing flooring, vandal-resistant light fixtures, durable benchtops, and think about safety. Create sightlines that deter antisocial behavior. Use lighting that makes people feel safe. Provide secure bike storage so residents don't bring bikes inside. These details matter. A well-designed environment can improve quality of life and reduce operational costs.
Energy efficiency matters too. We touched on this earlier, but in a community project, the savings can be substantial. If you design all units to meet a high energy rating, the collective reduction in energy demand is significant. Solar panels can be installed on roofs or in carports, with battery storage to manage evening loads. Some projects use centralized hot water systems with heat pumps rather than individual electric heaters. Passive design, orientation, shading, insulation plays a huge role. Modular construction allows you to optimize these factors in the factory and then replicate them across multiple units.
Last but not least, think about aesthetics. Affordable doesn't mean ugly. For too long, social housing was built cheaply and ended up stigmatized. That creates a self-fulfilling cycle where people don't respect their homes because they don't feel respected. Modular projects have the opportunity to break that cycle. Use colors, textures, and landscaping to create a place people are proud to call home. A little design flair goes a long way.
Now, let's talk about money. Affordable housing projects are often funded through a mix of sources: government grants, private investment, philanthropy, and sometimes contributions from future residents. In recent years, there's been growing interest in social impact investment. This is where investors put money into projects that generate both a financial return and a social benefit. Affordable modular housing fits well into this model because it can deliver predictable rental income while addressing a pressing social need. Investors might accept slightly lower returns in exchange for measurable impact.
Government plays a big role. In Australia, the National Housing Finance and Investment Corporation, NHFIC, provides low-cost finance to community housing providers. They've funded several modular projects because the speed of modular aligns with the urgency of the housing need. State governments also have grant programs. For example, there are initiatives to fund women's refugees, Indigenous housing, and homelessness services. These grants often require matched funding from charities or private donors. Modular construction can help stretch those dollars further because of the efficiency it offers.
There's also the concept of community land trusts and housing cooperatives. In a community land trust, a not-for-profit owns the land and leases it to residents at low cost. The residents own their homes but not the land, which reduces purchase prices and keeps the housing affordable in perpetuity. Modular homes fit neatly into this because they can be built quickly and, if necessary, relocated. Housing cooperatives are collectively owned by residents who make decisions democratically. They can develop modular projects using collective finance. We've seen co-ops where members each contribute a small deposit and then secure a loan collectively. It's a way of sharing risk and reward.
And we can't forget about philanthropic organizations. Many charities have funds set aside for housing. Some large foundations focus specifically on women's housing, youth homelessness, or Indigenous housing. They partner with builders and governments to fund modular developments. The structure typically looks like this. The charity provides a grant, the government provides land or infrastructure, and a modular builder delivers the project at a discounted rate. Everyone benefits. Charities achieve their mission, builders keep their factories busy, and governments house people faster.
On the private side, there's build to rent. Traditionally, developers build apartments and sell them to individual buyers. In build to rent, a developer retains ownership and rents units out. This model is gaining traction in Australia. A developer might partner with a community housing provider to include a portion of affordable units within a larger project. Modular construction can accelerate build-to-rent projects, getting them to market faster. Investors like the steady income, and governments like the additional supply.
Another interesting model is social bonds. These are a type of fixed income security where investors' returns are linked to social outcomes. For example, a bond might finance a modular housing project, and the government repays investors if certain metrics are achieved, like a reduction in homelessness or improved health outcomes. It's a way of tying financial returns to social impact. While social bonds aren't widespread in the housing sector yet, there's potential. Modular construction could make it easier to measure outcomes because the projects are delivered quickly and data can be collected sooner.
Regardless of the funding model, there's always risk. Costs can blow out, approvals can be delayed, and community opposition can arise. A key advantage of modular is the ability to de-risk the construction phase by locking in costs and timelines early. Funders like that. They want certainty. And because modules are built in a controlled environment, the quality is consistent, reducing long-term maintenance costs. Over the life of an affordable housing project, lower maintenance costs mean more money can be spent on support services for residents. You might notice we call out challenges in every episode. That's because every opportunity has a flip side. For affordable housing, one of the big challenges is approvals. Modular doesn't get you out of planning regulations. In fact, sometimes it raises additional questions from councils because they might not be familiar with the method. Community opposition, NIMBYism, is another obstacle. Some people get nervous when they hear affordable housing or social housing in their neighbourhood. They worry about property values or antisocial behaviour. Education is key. Showing that modular projects can be attractive and well managed helps allay fears. Involving residents in design consultations can also build support. People are more likely to back a project if they feel heard.
Another challenge is long-term funding. Government grants and philanthropy can get a project built, but operating costs, staff, maintenance, insurance are ongoing. Community housing providers often operate on thin margins. If rents are kept low to be affordable, then funding gaps need to be filled by subsidies or cross-subsidizing with market rate units. Modular construction can help by reducing maintenance costs, but it doesn't eliminate them. Funders need to think beyond capital and support ongoing operations.
Community cohesion is another factor. When you bring together people from different backgrounds, some who have experienced trauma, some who have never lived in a community setting, it takes time to build trust. Good design helps, but you also need community development workers, mental health support, and opportunities for residents to take ownership of their community. If those supports aren't in place, the physical environment won't be enough. We've seen projects where residents formed a gardening club, a walking group, and a communal kitchen. These simple activities break down barriers and foster mutual support.
Maintenance and durability come up again. Even the best materials wear out. You need to budget for replacement of appliances, repainting, and garden upkeep. If funding is tight, there's a temptation to defer maintenance, but that leads to bigger problems down the track. In affordable housing, deferred maintenance can quickly spiral. A leaking roof leads to mold, which affects health. Cracked paving causes falls. Planning for long-term maintenance is essential. This includes training residents in basic maintenance and encouraging pride of place.
Cultural sensitivity is another consideration. In Indigenous housing projects, for example, design needs to reflect cultural practices. An outdoor cooking area might be more important than a big indoor kitchen. Bedrooms might need to accommodate extended family members at certain times. If you impose a one-size-fits-all design, you risk creating homes that people don't use or respect. Consult early and often with the community you're building for.
Lastly, there's the challenge of scaling up. Modular works beautifully on small and medium projects, but if you suddenly need to build 5,000 units, you need factories capable of that output. Australia's modular manufacturing industry is growing, but it's not unlimited. Partnerships with multiple manufacturers, planning production schedules, and ensuring supply chains can meet demand are all part of scaling. Governments and large developers need to coordinate with the industry to make sure capacity is in place.
Looking ahead, I'm optimistic. Governments are beginning to realize that the old ways of building housing aren't enough. Modular isn't a silver bullet, but it's a powerful arrow in the quiver. We're starting to see state governments procure modular units for rapid housing, like the Victorian government's Big Housing Build, which includes modular factories in its supply chain. There are also pilot projects where homeless individuals are involved in assembling their own modular homes, gaining skills and a sense of ownership.
Technology is evolving too. We're experimenting with cross-laminated timber, CLT modules, that have lower carbon footprints than steel or concrete. We're seeing 3D printing used for bespoke components, reducing waste. Digital tools like Building Information Modeling (BIM) make it easier to coordinate large projects and avoid errors. And there's talk of modular mega factories that can churn out hundreds of modules per month. If these factories come online, they could transform the housing landscape.
Policy will play a huge role. If planning laws support modular, if finance is accessible, and if community attitudes shift, we could see a wave of affordable modular developments. There's momentum building. The question is whether it will translate into sustained action. We need continuous advocacy, pilot projects that prove the concept, and, importantly, storytelling. People need to hear that modular communities can be beautiful, thriving places.
On the social front, the future could involve more mixed-tenure developments. Instead of separating affordable housing into one area, you integrate it with market-rate housing. That reduces stigma and spreads the cost. Modular construction's flexibility makes it easier to design mixed-tenure projects. You can intersperse different unit types without complex sequencing.
And we may see more integration of services. A modular housing project could include a health clinic, a community pantry, a training centre. Residents get immediate access to support. The more integrated the services, the better the outcomes. Ultimately, housing is a foundation, but it's not enough on its own. It needs to be part of a broader support system. That's the future we should aim for.
I'm hopeful. Every time I visit one of these modular communities, I see resilience. People who've been through tough times find stability. Kids get a safe place to sleep. Elders feel respected. It's a reminder that housing isn't just about numbers, it's about dignity and opportunity. And if modular construction helps deliver that faster and more efficiently, then I'm all in.
Let's talk about community engagement, because a successful affordable housing project is about people, not just buildings. When you involve residents and local stakeholders from the outset, you build buy-in and ensure the final design meets real needs. Community engagement isn't a box-ticking exercise, it's a dialogue. One of the modular projects we mentioned earlier held a series of design workshops with potential residents. They asked what people wanted in their homes, what made them feel safe, and what amenities were important. The residents said simple things like a place to sit outside, a small garden for herbs, and an area where kids could ride their bikes. Those features were integrated into the design. When residents moved in, they recognized the result of their contributions, and that fostered a sense of ownership.
Community engagement also extends beyond future residents. Neighbors, local businesses, cultural groups, everyone needs to have a voice. In one project, the developers invited local artists to paint murals on the exterior of the modules. The art reflected the history of the neighborhood, and it turned a potential eyesore into a landmark. Local schools got involved by planting trees and creating a community garden. These activities broke down barriers. People stopped seeing it as affordable housing and started seeing it as part of the community fabric. You can do the same with modular projects. They're quick to build, but that doesn't mean you should skip the relationship building.
There's also a social impact beyond the immediate residents. Affordable housing can revitalize areas by bringing more foot traffic to local shops, schools, and services. Modular projects that include ground floor retail or community centers can create jobs. And when people move out of homelessness or housing stress, their health improves, their children do better at school, and their reliance on emergency services decreases. A study in Canada found that for every dollar invested in supportive housing, $2 to $3 was saved in health and justice system costs. The same principles apply here. Good housing reduces public expenditure in other areas. So when we talk about affordable modular homes, we're talking about an investment in people and society.
A simple but powerful part of community engagement is storytelling. Sharing the stories of people who will live in or have lived in modular communities humanizes the project. Instead of statistics, you hear about someone like John, who went from couch surfing to having his own front door and is now studying to become a carpenter. You hear about Emily, a single mum whose kids now have a stable place to do homework. These stories resonate with the public and with decision makers. They build empathy and support. And as a modular builder, we learn a lot from them. Feedback from residents helps us refine designs and processes. It's an iterative relationship.
We mentioned a few overseas examples earlier, but it's worth looking at how different countries are using modular construction to tackle affordability. In the Netherlands, for instance, there's a program called Heijmans 1 that delivers compact modular homes designed for young professionals who earn too much to qualify for social housing but can't afford market rent. The homes are about 39 square meters, fully furnished and designed to be relocatable. They're set up on unused urban land, like car parks or brownfield sites, and can be moved when the land is needed for other purposes. This makes use of underutilized land while providing flexible housing.
In the United Kingdom, we're seeing local councils and housing associations embrace modular to meet ambitious affordable housing targets. Projects like Y-Cube in London consist of modular units built off-site and craned into place. The units are designed for people leaving homelessness services. They're small but stylish and rent is around 65% of the local market rate. Residents sign up for a fixed period, giving them time to stabilize and transition to permanent housing. Because the modules can be relocated, the project can adapt to changing needs.
In Canada, there are Indigenous housing initiatives similar to the one we talked about in Western Australia. Partnerships between modular manufacturers and First Nations communities have led to culturally appropriate housing that can be delivered to remote regions. There's also a trend of using modular construction for seniors' villages, offering a mix of independent living units and assisted living facilities. The speed of modular means less disruption for residents waiting to move out of unsuitable housing. And because modular units can be designed for cold climates, they're well suited to Canada's harsh winters.
The United States is experimenting with modular to tackle homelessness. Projects in cities like Los Angeles and Seattle have used modular units to create temporary villages. They offer a stepping stone from shelters to permanent housing. Some states have also used modular units as transitional housing after natural disasters. After hurricanes in Texas, for example, modular homes were deployed as interim shelter while communities rebuilt. These projects show the versatility of modular. It's not just a local solution, it's a global one, adaptable to different contexts.
Looking at these international examples, we can learn lessons about policy, design, and community engagement. Many of the successful projects have strong government backing and clear guidelines. They often include wraparound services, and they prioritize aesthetics and quality. They also demonstrate how modular housing can be part of a strategic approach to land use, activating underutilized sites and then moving the homes as needed. These are ideas we can adapt in Australia. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, we can stand on the shoulders of others. Let's say you're listening to this and thinking, my town needs something like this. How do you start? You don't have to be a government or a big charity to initiate change. It can begin with a conversation among neighbours. Here's a rough roadmap. 1. Identify the need. Do your neighbours know someone who is struggling with housing? Is there a local organisation that works with people experiencing homelessness? Gather data and stories to understand the scale and nature of the problem. 2. Form a group. You need a committed core team. It could include residents, representatives from a faith community, social workers, builders, or local councillors. The more diverse your group, the more perspectives you bring to the table. 3. Engage with stakeholders. Talk to your local council early. They control planning approvals and might have land or grants available. Speak with community housing providers who have experience managing affordable housing. Reach out to modular builders to understand costs and timelines. 4. Secure land. Affordable housing needs an affordable site. This might be a church car park, a vacant block owned by council, or land donated by a philanthropist. Alternatively, you might negotiate a long-term lease on used commercial land. 5. Develop a concept. Work with architects or designers familiar with modular construction. Create a concept plan that shows the layout, unit types, communal spaces and services. Make sure it's realistic and meets local planning requirements. 6. Seek funding. Explore grants, donations, social impact investors, community fundraising and government programs. You might also consider crowdfunding to raise awareness and seed money. Prepare a budget that includes construction, site works, professional fees, and contingency. 7. Get approvals. Submit your plans to council, engage with neighbours to address concerns, be prepared to adapt the design. This step can be time-consuming. Allow for it in your timeline. 8. Build. Once approvals and funding are in place, the modular builder will start production. Meanwhile, site preparation begins. Levelling the land, connecting utilities, and constructing foundations. When the modules arrive, installation can be quick, often a matter of days or weeks. 9. Operate. Decide who will manage the housing. It could be a community housing provider, a co-op, or another entity. Set policies for rent, maintenance, and support services. Engage residents in community building from day one. 10. Evaluate and share. After the project is up and running, evaluate its success. Collect data on resident outcomes, financial performance, and community impact. Share what you learn. Success stories inspire others and can attract funding for future projects.
That's a lot of steps, but breaking it down makes it manageable. Start small if you need to. Maybe it's just one modular home for a person in need. Small victories build momentum, and you'll find allies. There are people in every community who care deeply about housing justice. Reach out, tell them what you're thinking, and see who wants to join you.
We've covered a lot, and we know listeners have questions. So let's do a quick rapid-fire Q&A. I'll throw a question at you, Mark, and you can give a concise answer. Ready?
Let's do it.
First question, how long does it actually take to build a modular community of, say, 20 units?
It depends, but generally, once you have approvals, you could have a 20-unit development built and installed in 6 to 9 months. Factory construction might take 12 weeks, and site prep and installation another 4 to 6 weeks. The approvals process often takes longer than the building.
Second, Are modular homes really cheaper?
They can be, especially at scale. Savings come from reduced waste, shorter timelines, and fixed pricing. But site costs, transport, and design choices can affect the price. They're competitive with traditional builds and often deliver better value for money when you factor in time and quality.
Third, what about long-term durability?
High-quality modular homes are designed to last decades, just like traditional houses. They meet the same building codes. Maintenance is crucial, of course. If you skimp on upkeep, any home will deteriorate. But with proper maintenance, modular homes hold up well.
Can modular homes be relocated easily?
Yes, one of the advantages is relocatability. It's not like towing a caravan. You need cranes and trucks. But the modules are designed to be moved. The cost isn't trivial, so you wouldn't move them every year, but relocating once or twice over a building's life is feasible.
Do residents like living in modular communities?
In our experience, yes. The biggest factor in resident satisfaction is not the construction method, but the quality of design, management, and support. If the homes are comfortable and the community is well run, people are happy. If the management is absent and the design is poor, people are unhappy, regardless of the construction method.
Can you have pets in modular communities?
That's a good one, and it often comes up. Yes, many modular communities allow pets, but it depends on the management. In affordable housing projects, there are usually guidelines. Pets might need to be under a certain size, vaccinated, and registered, and owners must clean up after them. Design considerations matter too. You might include secure fencing, durable flooring, and easy clean surfaces. Some communities provide communal dog parks or walking trails. Allowing pets can improve residents' mental health and sense of comfort, but it needs to be managed so everyone feels safe and happy.
Do modular homes appreciate in value like traditional homes?
Generally, yes. Because they are built to the same standards as traditional homes and are considered fixed real estate once installed, modular homes tend to follow the same market trends as conventional housing. Factors like location, quality of construction, ongoing maintenance, and market demand all influence value. One thing to note is that relocatable modular homes might be treated differently by banks, but if your modular home is on a permanent foundation and meets building codes, it's appraised similarly to a site-built home. As modular becomes more mainstream, valuations are catching up.
What if I want to support affordable housing but I'm not a builder or developer?
There are plenty of ways to get involved. You can donate to or volunteer with charities that build housing, like those we've mentioned. You can advocate for policies that support affordable housing, such as inclusionary zoning or funding for community housing providers. If you have investment capacity, you can explore social impact funds that invest in affordable housing projects. You can also participate in community initiatives, support a local land trust, attend council meetings to speak in favor of affordable developments, or mentor someone in need. Every little bit helps. Housing is a community issue, and community action makes a difference.
Are there special building codes for modular communities?
Modular homes must meet the same National Construction Code requirements as site-built homes. They're built in a factory, but they still need building permits, planning approvals, and inspections. Councils sometimes have additional guidelines for secondary dwellings or multi-unit developments, such as minimum lot sizes, setbacks, and parking provisions. Because modular is still new in some areas, you might need to educate your council about how the homes are constructed. Using a reputable builder who provides thorough documentation helps streamline the process.
Thanks, Mark. Rapid fire Q&A done. If listeners have more questions, send them through, and we might answer them in a future episode. That was a big episode. We've explored the affordable housing crisis, looked at case studies, dug into design and funding, tackled challenges, peered into the future, talked about community engagement and international examples, explained how to start your own project, and even squeezed in a rapid-fire Q&A. The bottom line is that modular construction offers a flexible, efficient, and compassionate way to deliver affordable housing and community projects. It's not a silver bullet, but it's a powerful tool. With the right partnerships, funding, and community support, Modular projects can change lives.
Absolutely. And if you're someone who's passionate about housing justice, we hope this episode inspires you to take action. Whether that's advocating for modular solutions, volunteering with a housing charity, or starting a conversation in your own community. Come and see our display centres in Canberra and Brisbane, if you're curious. Walk through the Airlie, Burleigh, Barossa and Waratah models. Put on the VR headset and explore our designs. And remember, we're rolling out nationally. Victoria, Western Australia, South Australia, Tasmania and the Northern Territory are all on the horizon. We want to show as many people as possible what's possible.
Next time on Building Modular Dreams, we're moving from community projects to something a lot of homeowners are curious about: backyard income. We'll discuss how to turn your backyard into an income stream with granny flats, rental strategies, and more. It's episode 7, so don't miss it. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and keep dreaming.